It starts as a niggling feeling of discomfort that you try to squash, but it keeps popping back up. Sometimes you wonder if you're going crazy. You keep asking the question, what happened to this person I fell in love with, who once adored everything about me, but now seems to hate me one day and love me the next? Is there something wrong with me? And that's the very question that a narcissistic person wants you to ask yourself. The lower your self-esteem sinks, the easier it is for them to control you and get what they want. Unfortunately, this desire is the foundation for a range of insidious manipulation tactics that characterize people with dangerous narcissistic personality traits. To an extent, we all have some traits of narcissism. For example, a need for admiration or a sense of self-importance in a fantastic career you've built are normal and no cause for concern, as long as you're self-aware and these traits don't dictate your life. The difference between you and a narcissist is that they intentionally manipulate people, usually to cover deep, lifelong insecurities with a delusional sense of being better than or in control of others. There's a vast spectrum of narcissistic personality traits and disorders, ranging from overt and covert to malignant and antagonistic. But they generally display similar traits that, if consistent, highlight the red flags you need to see and deal with. Are you questioning your own memory or instincts? One of the first things you might notice is that narcissists lie easily and often. Sometimes about major things, other times about trivial details. These lies aren't always obvious. They may bend the truth, omit key facts, or tell different stories to different people. The goal is often to protect their image, avoid accountability, or manipulate your perception of reality. This leads us to gaslighting. It's a manipulative tactic narcissistic partners use to gain control and avoid responsibility as they distort reality. They may deny things they clearly said or did, rewrite past events, or accuse you of being too sensitive, irrational, or forgetful. This persistent undermining leaves you second-guessing your own thoughts, memories, and emotions, making you increasingly dependent on them for validation or truth. You may find yourself apologizing just to keep the peace, even when you're not at fault. This emotional manipulation is not only confusing but deeply damaging to your self-esteem and mental well-being. Gaslighting is often in response to the slightest perceived criticism. A narcissistic partner is extremely sensitive to any form of criticism, no matter how gently it's delivered. What might be a reasonable request or a mild expression of concern can quickly escalate into anger, defensiveness, or passive-aggressive behavior. They may lash out, blame you, or twist the situation to make themselves the victim, reacting as though you've deeply wounded or betrayed them. This hypersensitivity stems from a fragile ego that can't tolerate the idea of being flawed or wrong. As a result, you might start avoiding honest communication or suppressing your needs to prevent conflict, gradually losing your voice in the relationship. This creates a toxic dynamic where accountability is off limits and emotional safety becomes increasingly scarce. Instead of trying to understand your perspective, they might also respond with indifference, irritation, or even mockery. This lack of emotional attunement creates a deep sense of loneliness within the relationship, as your need for compassion and connection goes unmet. Over time, you may stop sharing how you feel altogether, fearing that vulnerability will be used against you or ignored. This emotional neglect can lead to feelings of worthlessness and isolation, leaving you to constantly question whether your emotions are valid or if you're simply too much. When a narcissist knows they've gone too far, they'll return to the love bombing and devaluation cycle. It's what they used in the beginning of your relationship to quickly gain your trust and encourage emotional attachment. Remember when they overwhelmed you with flattery, attention, gifts, and intense declarations of love? This whirlwind of affection is intoxicating, making you feel special and deeply desired. However, once you were emotionally invested and dependent on that validation, the dynamic shifted. The affection abruptly faded, replaced by criticism, emotional withdrawal, or subtle forms of control. You felt confused, constantly trying to regain the love and approval they once showered on you. This constant cycle of idealization, followed by devaluation, keeps you off balance and hooked, believing that if you just try harder, the perfect version of them will return, when in reality, that version was a carefully constructed illusion. It's usually long before this stage that you're asking the question, is my partner a narcissist? You already recognize the traits, and you're feeling increasingly depressed and exhausted in the relationship. You probably know you need to get out and fast, But like a curse, you keep falling for the bait, whether that's being drawn into nonsense, circular arguments, or feeling unable to resist the love bombing. The good news is you've already taken the first step. That is, to acknowledge that the relationship is emotionally harmful, no matter how much you hope they'll change. Accepting the truth is the first step toward reclaiming your power. Next, reach out to trusted friends, family, a therapist, or support groups who understand emotional abuse. Reconnecting with others helps you gain clarity and courage. Once you decide to leave, avoid explaining, justifying, or debating your reasons. Narcissists try to manipulate you back in with charm, rage, or guilt. Stay grounded in your decision and remind yourself why you're leaving. Don't fall for temporary kindness. Clarity and distance are your best defense. Block their number, unfollow them on social media, and avoid mutual spaces. This is called going no contact. Though revenge isn't useful in the long run, it's likely you're swinging between confusion, depression, and outrage over how you've been treated. Refusing contact with a narcissist is the best revenge and the only thing that will truly set you on the path to healing. Leaving a narcissistic relationship is emotionally overwhelming. Grief, confusion, and even missing them are normal. Be gentle with yourself and focus on long-term freedom, not short-term comfort. Don't beat yourself up for falling for their tactics for so long. It's likely that your empathetic nature wanted to help them, and you kept thinking their behavior was temporary or excused by stories they told you. Remember that, though healthy relationships still come with challenges, they never lower your self-esteem, make you feel totally dependent on the other person, or result in emotional roller coasters you can't recover from before the next one starts. Take time to reconnect with your interests, values, and desires. Celebrate the peace you'll soon feel in the absence of their volatility. And know that you might have just learned the most important lesson of your life. That is, to trust your own instincts, set boundaries, and love yourself first and foremost. For more free spirit wisdom, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and always look within.